The 2013-2014 budget is the first one to be prepared under the Public Financial Management Act of 2012 and is also the first budget under President Uhuru Kenyatta's government. There have been many expectations from the various sectors, with most of them hoping for more allocations than the previous year. One of the biggest gainers in this year's budget is the education sector, where the Teachers Service Commission will take home 130.5 billion shillings. According to the Budget Appropriations Committee Chairman Ruth Mutegi, more emphasis has been put in the recruiting of new teachers as well as good remuneration for teachers. Its counterpart Ministry of Education, Science and Technology will have to be content with 113.5 billion shillings. The budget has also laid emphasis on the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, where it suggested that it be allocated an additional 15 billion shillings taken from the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government and 5 billion shillings taken from the Ministry of Defense, bringing its total allocation to 125.7 billion shillings. Other top gainers include the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum with 78.5 billion shillings, the Ministry of Devolution and Planning with 84.8 billion shillings, the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government with 108.9 billion shillings, as well as the Ministry of Defense with 60.4 billion shillings. The Ministry of Mining has, however, suffered a blow, having been allocated just 574 million shillings, despite the huge prospects of mining currently in the country. But to achieve this, the National Treasury has had to cut down on some allocations from the previous budget. The biggest casualty of this cut down is money allocated for constitutional reforms, which has been reduced to zero, meaning in this year's budget it won't be getting funding. Other areas not getting any money in this year's budget include implementation of irrigation projects in schools, construction of greenhouses for schools, establishment of an expert service scheme at the National Treasury, the Privatization Commission, the Nairobi Financial Center, as well as the refurbishment of the National Treasury. In total, these reductions amount to 9.91 billion shillings. There are areas that have experienced reductions but will nonetheless get some money, which include the allocation for human resource reforms, which has been reduced by 3 billion shillings to 15 billion shillings. The Public Procurement Oversight Authority allocation will be reduced by 19 million shillings to settle at 300 million shillings, while allocations for the Financial Reporting Center have been reduced by 150 million shillings to settle at 350 million shillings. Generally, some of the other biggest losers include government agencies, whose allocations have been reduced by 30%, the budget for poverty eradication, which has been reduced by 170 million shillings, while allocations for all commissions have been reduced by 15%. But while these areas have suffered a reduction, there are other areas that the National Treasury has increased and reallocated some funds to. The Ministry of East Africa Affairs, Commerce and Tourism has been allocated 3 billion shillings more for tourism and other related initiatives. To boost youth employment and the Youth Fund, the Ministry of Industrialization and Enterprise Development has also been allocated an additional 3 billion shillings. The Ministry of Devolution and Planning and the Director of Public Prosecutions, on the other hand, will receive an additional 1.3 billion shillings and 300 million shillings, respectively. The various reductions in the budget allocations have saved the National Treasury 15.38 billion shillings, which will cater for the additional allocations. From the estimates, the biggest loser is the constitutional reforms, which has been allocated nil, and the biggest gainer is the education sector. But it remains to be seen whether there will be more losers or gainers when the Cabinet Secretary presents the budget to the nation later today. Ruth Mutegi for Eye on the Budget 2013-2014.